let's just get started. It's time for the Venus star transits video, April 2024, and it's all about Aries. In April, we will have transiting planets through Aries. We will also have a solar eclipse in Aries, and also Venus will go invisible. There's a lot more going on, but this is in short what will happen in April. Hi, welcome back to my channel, Living in Cycles. I am Cindy. I'm an astrologer and I help you to learn from the past, understand the present and prepare for the future. Let's get right into it. April is a continuation from what started in March. We are now moving forward in time with the transits and the energies of Aries. Aries is caught in the fire, and that is very important to understand because you need to understand the element of the sign and the modality to actually understand what kind of energy that sign, in this case Aries, represents. Let's build the star. These posts are about the 5-pointed Venus star, and I'm trying to give you some kind of general information about what's going on around the Venus star, concentrating on signs that most people have on their Venus star. There are currently signs on the Venus star that not many people have on their personal star. But Aries is a sign that almost everybody has on their Venus star. This is the 5-pointed Venus star, and you too have this star in your birth chart. Before I go on talking about what's going on this month, everything I say is of course general. I try to come up with symbolism that will help you on your path, but of course you benefit mostly if you understand the signs around your Venus star. So now I already talked about that Aries is part of almost everybody's Venus star. So you too have Aries somewhere on your Venus star. Now, if you understand which of the 5 points is Aries in your star, you get more information, what the symbolism coming through in April actually means for you personally. Also, it depends if you have planets in Aries, that will impact what the quality of time is for you personally, and also what kind of activation is going on right now. Not everything is active all the time in our birth charts, so it's important to see what planets and what signs are the most prominent during this time, for example. Let's move on. We are talking now about Aries. And there's a lot of things going on in Aries. There's a lot of planets in the eclipse happening in the sign of Aries. And because Aries is a sign that almost everybody has on their Venus star, it's very much affecting the collective. So it's not only through your personal life, but it's also very broad because we all are receiving this kind of energy right now. And in March, we left with already Mercury being in Aries. And then we also have the North Node in Aries. This is very important because we know that where the nodes of the moon are, there the eclipses will happen. We have Mercury in Aries, we have the North Node of the moon in Aries, and we have the Sun in Aries. These are the energies that we start with in April. Right from the beginning, on April 2nd, Mercury will go retrograde. And Mercury is a very important planet right now because Mercury will stay in Aries until May 15th, I believe. Let me check this. May 15th, yeah, that's a very long time. And this is happening because Mercury goes retrograde and then moves direct. And this gives Mercury a very long time in Aries. Okay, yeah, Mercury goes retrograde. And then we will have Venus entering Aries too. These are our main players in April. Let us put Venus here. So these planets are the primary energies around the Venus star on the Aries point. Venus enters, why did I not put my notes here like I always do? April 5th. That's when Venus, let me get some tape. That happens when you are on the path of self-growth and cultivating spontaneity, which is absolutely not reflected in your birth chart. There's nothing spontaneous happening in my chart. Okay, but you can always learn and grow. April 5th, yeah, that's when Venus will enter Aries. Also, what happens is that the sun at that point, at that day, will reach the North Node. So we know that an eclipse is near. And the eclipse, the solar eclipse in this case, happens, of course, when the moon is in between Earth and the sun. So the moon actually eclipses the sun. The entire energy, everything that is happening actually right now, speaks of endings and beginnings. First, Aries is a sign that is cardinal fire. It's the first sign of the zodiac, which is the beginning of a new astrological year, the beginning of spring, the beginning of new life. That's the symbolism. There is new life coming through the earth. Eclipses too are about beginnings and endings. So it's simultaneously the liminal space between what happens, well, in between the end and the beginning. Meaning that right now, through so many planets that receive the energies of Aries, that are starting something new and ending an old phase, something old, this really gives a push. So there might be a very strong push that you can feel. And this push might be very uncomfortable. You know, when you are in between phases, you can have a lot of confusion. It might also feel for some people good because they finally can get rid of something that has been bothering them for a very long time. So these energies, whatever I'm saying now, has very much, it depends very much on how your personal birth chart is constructed. But in general, what you can be sure of is that it's about endings and beginnings. So the eclipse and Aries both speak of endings and beginnings. Also, whenever planets are close to the sun and change phases, like Venus is about to do, she's now actually descending. I'm talking about this in a minute. Whenever planets are with the sun, they also start a new cycle. I always imagine that the conjunction of planets with the sun, whenever they change phases, it's like being cleansed by holy fire. So the sun is the great fire, the great spirit. So the planets that are close to the sun, they are having an audience with the king or the queen, with the source. Planets that are close to the sun, they are under the beams of the sun, which makes them invisible for us. So whenever planets get out of sight, there is this symbolism of secrecy. And because we have now Mercury and Venus, the closest planets to the sun, with the sun in Aries in the new beginning, there is this secret meeting of the most closest allies to the sun, to the great spirit. And Mercury has to do with mobility. It's about mental mobility, but also physical mobility. And then March, I said that March sets the stage for intuitive thinking, for new ideas. And that continues right now. So Mercury starts getting new inspiration. And Venus too. Venus is about sharing, connecting. And the main general symbolism is there might be an end and a new beginning in the way how you connect to people. An end and a new beginning in relationships. An end and a beginning in what you share and what kind you share. And I also said in March that it's important to stay open to receive messages from the divine. So hold on. Make it through this phase of confusion and not knowing what's going on. Stay calm and try to receive. Aries is an energy that is quite rough on the edges. So Aries is not about cultivating something. That comes later in Taurus. Taurus is about cultivating the energies that Aries provides us with. Aries is about the energy, the push that comes suddenly, that makes things happen, but it happens underground. That's where seedlings sprout underground. They come to the surface a bit later, but the energy that makes that happen is the Aries energy, that force that helps you to break through. Aries is a breakthrough energy. Aries is about the new seed, helping it break through. If your Venus star point is in Leo, you have Aries on the giving foot of your star. That might be very important for you because we are now in a Leo Venus star point phase, meaning that your Venus star point right now is activated. And because the Sun is the ruler of your Venus star point, it's important where it goes during that activation period. So now it's in Aries, it's the giving out. And it might be, of course, that you yourself receive something, but also that you are the one that actually helps people to break through in a way. What else do we have? The solar eclipse happens on April 8th. Important also, the solar eclipse happens while Venus and Mercury are together with the Sun. The closest allies of the Sun being together during this eclipsing of the great light of the source. This is really about something happening in the shadows. For some people on a personal level, that they are going through this secrecy phase where they secretly transform into something. So it's a dying and a rebirth, and of course it's spring too, and it's Easter week. Some people celebrate their crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. So there's a lot of symbolism, and of course the older traditions were thinking about how Mother Nature starts a new cycle, giving birth to new life. So the symbolism is very similar around the whole world and around cultures and religions. There is this symbolism of new life, but also the secrecy, things that happen that we don't want to tell people. And on a collective level, it might just have to do with important decisions being made that are not presented to the broader public right now. So let's see what happens. Then what's interesting is that all those energies are in Mars's masculine sign, and Mars right now is in Pisces together with Saturn, and they also will meet during April. The conjunction happens on April 10th. Pisces is not on the Venus star right now, and it's also not on anybody's Venus star. Traditionally, that means that Mars actually, as the ruler of Aries, has no say in what's going on. Mars is not available for everybody that is right now in Aries. So I always say that it's like people who are renting a flat, and Mars in this case would be the landlord, but Mars is not reachable. So whatever happens, if there's trouble, you cannot reach him, he's out of sight. Mars is minding his own business now with Saturn. And sometimes it can mean that if a planet is not available, there are actually two things. On one hand, you have freedom to do whatever you want because your landlord doesn't get aware of anything. On the other hand, you don't have the support of your landlord. So if something gets broken, you have to manage yourself. And with Aries energy, if there's nobody overseeing the situation, there can be arguments, there can be fighting, and we have to be aware of that in this time of confusion, in this time between the old and the new, that we do not get caught up in behavior that is not beneficial for us or other people. So that is very important to keep in mind. On April 19th, Venus will conjoin Mercury. As Mercury travels backwards in the zodiac and Venus travels forward, they will meet at some point. As soon as planets join the same energy field, they are aware of each other and they share the same energy field together. And conjunction is a really meeting of those two face to face, and now sitting down and having a talk. With Mercury and Venus, this can be very friendly. I don't know why I feel this way, because the Aries energy is different, but Mercury and Venus, they are close to each other in a way. And there's the story of Inanna when she goes to the underworld, and it is said that Mercury represents Inanna's servant Ninshubur. So Mercury helping Inanna coming back from the underworld. And now we are coming to that one thing I said in the beginning, which is very important this month. Venus will go invisible finally everywhere on planet Earth. So this happens after mid-April, when Venus gets under the beams of the sun, around 10 degrees 13 to 10 degrees. But what happens in the sky is, of course, a bit different, depends on where you live. But that's the phase, the final phase, when Venus goes invisible, minding her own business, being under the beams of the sun. And symbolically, this is represented in the story of Inanna's descent. So Venus now being on her journey, which helps her to understand what is there in the shadows, what is there in the secrets. It's actually beautiful that this happens in Aries, because the whole energy that you feel when you read the story of Inanna, she sets out for the underworld. She listens, she hears something, and she sets out. She decides voluntarily, I am going there. I hear the call. The question is, do we hear the call? Do you hear the call to set out in this time? I'm thinking of the opposition of Aries and Libra. Venus rules Libra, and now she's in Aries. She's far away from home. Libra is her home sign, one of the two home signs. And she is in the foreign land, so to speak. She is in an environment that is so foreign and that is pushing her to face the other side, literally. So Venus, as the ruler of Libra, now in Aries, is facing the other side. But I don't want to talk too much about that because it gets sidetracked here. Sorry. Moving on. The sun will leave after the conjunction of Mercury and Venus. Next is that we will have a full moon in Scorpio. So Scorpio is the other sign that everybody has on their Venus star. This might be important for some people. Then Venus will leave on April 29th. So right at the end. Mars, on the very last day of April, on April 30th, Mars joins, moves into Aries. And then we will have May already, which is the final stage of all that happened in Aries. And Mercury still being there. So it's really about the mind, about our mental and physical mobility, but mental, new inspiration. And when Mars enters his home sign, that's important. That gets very strong. This is it for April. So this is the time for a new beginning, and maybe also the time to start something that you haven't ever been thinking of in your life. It's exciting, but also rough on the edges. And it's dark right now here. But we have light in our hearts. Oh yeah, and also I'm teaching the Venus Star Course 2024 starting April 7th, and you have time to sign up until March 31st. So if you're interested in studying your birth chart and what all those transits and your own Venus star means, then now is the time to sign up. This might be the only course I'm teaching in 2024. Also, if you need help with figuring out what transits are active in your birth chart and how those Aries energy affect your life, book a reading with me. I'm glad to help you. Okay, that's all for this time. I hope you enjoy a wonderful April and see you next time. Bye bye.